would like to introduce Katie Christian. Katie, come on down. And as you're setting up the computer, yep, please, give a round of applause. Background on Katie. Katie Rogers Christian is known for her passion and eye for exceptional customer experiences, driving growth and scaling culture. She's morphed her time as a national championship rower and executive leading U.S. sales in a 5-star multinational organization to driving success within the ever-evolving SaaS community. In 2014, she joined SalesLoft via Twitter, right? Is that? Yeah. Okay, good. As the 7th hire to create and scale the post-sales function. Katie's hired over 40 employees in the areas of support, training, and customer success. She's led her teams through 2 successful product launches, one a seamless sunset, and the other rapidly scaling from 2 million to 20 million in 2 years. Katie is a strategy seeker who's intentionally sassy. Today, you'll find her spreading sales love to customers and lofters as Vice President of Strategic Accounts. Fun fact, Katie was also the co-captain of the parliamentary debate team, so argue with caution. Let's give it up to Katie.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? We're good? Yeah, perfect. I am Katie Christian. As John noted, I have started at SalesLoft in February of 2014, and it's been one amazing journey. And so over the past 5 months, I've been starting up a new initiative at the company as our VP of Strategic Accounts as the company's grown. But today I'm really here to talk to you about the past 4 years of building a customer success team from scratch. And so I hope it's just as insightful as it's been for me as hopefully what you learned today. So when I think about my journey, I was in sales my entire life. So why am I here talking to you about customer success and how did this happen, right? From the lemonade stand, if you were a neighbor of mine back in the old days, 7-year-old Katie was selling lemonade to her neighbors, but it wasn't just the experience of I had my stand. I was actually walking lemonade to neighbors as they were cutting their grass, being like, you need some, right? And then I moved on to retail through high school and college, and it wasn't about just selling clothes. It was remembering the names of my customers and creating an experience for them if they were buying clothes for their children. What would they like? Getting to know them and their business. And so when I think about things that I've learned throughout my childhood in this sales experience, these are the things that are top of mind. Building trust. So whether I was walking that glass of lemonade 2 houses down to Mr. Smith, building trust and learning about my customers from a clothing perspective, it created engagement. It created really meaningful conversations and learning about them. And then what they did was went and told other neighbors about that amazing glass of refreshing lemonade, or of the really cool clothes that we were providing as gifts and things and whatnot. So little did I know that these 3 words would really just detail my professional career. And so a little bit about myself. Let's talk about SalesLoft. My journey started through Twitter. I tweeted Kyle from Miami, and literally 2 hours later, pretty much drilled me on the phone for about 2.5 hours. So that was quite the experience, and I'll save that for another time. But I started as our 7th employee here in the Atlanta Tech Village. And so now we're over 260 lofters. Next Monday, we have about 15 new folks starting, and so we'll be at 275, which is just mind-blowing to me. And I will say, you grow and you grow, and I am continuously blown away by the talent that we bring on. And so I just get excited on Mondays because I know this whole new crowd is going to come around the corner, and I stand up and I wave. They probably think I'm that crazy person at SalesLoft, but it's just so exciting to be on this journey. So SalesLoft started with Prospector. So when I first came on board, we had 72 customers, and we grew that product and successfully sunset that literally 2 weeks before I went to South Africa. So that was a fun trip to really relax. But in the meantime, we launched SalesLoft today, which you may know of as SalesLoft Cadence. And so that product has been growing 100% for the past 3 years, year over year. So just absolutely crazy growth. From that perspective, and it's led to 120% net retention. So we've just scaled phenomenally, and the goal is to grow in the next 3 years to 100 million. So we've gone from 0 to 20 million roughly in about 3 years, and in the next 3 years we want to go to 100 million. So we've got lofty goals, pun intended, of course. But it's been, to get to this experience, one of the most rewarding, one of the most challenging experiences of my life. And when I think back to 4 years ago, sitting in the third floor in our corner office and saying, how are we going to do this? What do I do next? I wish there was this. And so I'm just really excited to be here today to share with you all, because this didn't exist 4 years ago. And so I'm going to talk to you about customer success from scratch, literally. There was nothing there. It was an amazing CEO, Kyle, and a great co-founder, Rob Foreman, and they were really focused on bringing on new customers. Again, we had 72 at the time, and they just dumped it on me and said, here you go. And so little did I realize that I wouldn't be doing proactive customer success for a long time. I was in the trenches building this out. And so everything that I thought I was going to do on day one was a big reality check for me. And then we slowly got to do all of that, but your customers will demand expectations of you, and it's up to you to rise to those occasions and really win them over. So we're going to talk about the evolution of customer success at SalesLoft. I'm going to go through our idea stage, product market fit, and scale to show you the evolution of how our program grew. I'm going to highlight highlights, challenges, actions, and really some of the hiring profiles, because I get asked a lot, Katie, when you're hiring for each of these stages, what does that look like? What type of profiles should I be looking for? And so my goal is to give you really actionable takeaways today that you can implement directly in your business or in future businesses. So, and then I'm going to wrap up with one of my absolute favorite things, championing your customers. There's nothing better than that. I don't care what role you're in. We're in business to serve customers. And so we're going to talk about small little acts, things you can do without a budget, and things that you can do once you start to grow and have that budget that really create those lasting relationships. And so Kevin kind of set me up here. I feel like I've got a lot of tough things to live up to from a scaling perspective, but here we go. Before I dig in, I probably am the only one in this room who wakes up thinking about customer strategies and customer success. So I don't want to assume the knowledge, but when you think of customer success, what comes to mind? Don't be shy. Having a happy customer. What else? Results. Say that one more time. Them hitting their objectives. Renewals, case studies. Referrals. Solving problems.
Success can mean different things to different clients.
Success can mean different things to different clients. Absolutely. So you can literally throw in the kitchen sink. No one said some of the sexier words like churn and downgrades and complaints. So surprised by that one. But customer success at SalesLoft, yes, it's a department, but for us, it's a company initiative. And so what I want to just leave you with, as we go through this presentation, yes, I'm going to focus specifically on this department, but this should be a company initiative. And so on this, at SalesLoft, we know how every role contributes to the customer experience, and we often highlight that in our All Hands on Friday. And so we talk about how product interacts with the customer, how our engineers are now sitting in on customer calls, and so we're all doing this for the customer. Let's remember that the phrase customer success isn't a department, it isn't a role, it should be that company initiative. And with that, I'm going to dig into that specific department, right? So, idea stage. I started in February of 2014. First person on the ground, seventh hire. And so some of the highlights, customer connection. So you actually had time to connect with those customers as they were coming on board and learning the nooks and crannies of their business, learning about their challenges, learning about areas that they just didn't know how to solve. And so that you have time. That's one thing I could stress. You have time. Take the time to learn about your customers. You have a core team, so it's probably going to be one of the only times that you're going to be able to sit right between your CEO and your COO. Embrace it. Talk to them about the customer challenges. Talk to them about the customer wins, and bring them along that journey with you as the first CSM on the ground, the CS leader, whatever that may be. It's a rare opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity, but make sure you're bringing them with you. And then innovation. We were creating new ideas every single week, listening to our customers and innovating very quickly. And so don't be afraid of that change. Embrace it and really let your customers help you drive that post-sale. Because they bought from you, they have brilliant ideas, they understand that you are solving a pain in their business, but they probably have some better ideas on how you could approach certain things like potentially training or how you're supporting them and things of that nature. Let's talk about challenges. This is a real one. So at SalesLoft, we went from 72 customers on my day one to ending the year with close to 450 customers. And that's just logos. And so we scaled so quickly in our first year. Customer acquisition, I could not keep up with sales. I simply couldn't. And so around that front, challenges were expectation setting. Our sales folks were, oh, we can do that. Of course we can do that. Has anyone ever had that happen? I'm the only one. Okay. Right? But of course we can do that. And then they'd come on over and I'd welcome them. And I'm like, we can't do that. What do I do? So we went back to the sales team and say, hey, when we do this, here's the outcome. Can we try Y instead? And they go, yeah, that actually sounds really great. So it's just simple conversations that we need to have internally. And the sooner you start them, the better that relationship will be long term. And then it was the lack of process. When you're building something from scratch, you don't have process. And I'm getting a head nod, so someone's with me, right? You don't have it, and so you have to create it. And remember, it's not good is better than perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing was beautiful in our first year when it came to CS, but it worked, and the customers were open to it. Now, if I could go back and perfect and shine all those little things, that would be great, but that just wasn't the reality that we were living in. So you've got to be able to make moves. And then from an action standpoint, so when we talk about customers walking through our door very quickly, we weren't prepared from a process standpoint. So one of the first things I did, super tactical, but I just created a frequently asked questions guide. And I took our top 10 questions, wrote them out, and wrote the answers to them. Not only did I give that to our customers, but I gave that to our product team. We had one engineer, and then we had our co-founder who also did some coding. And I said, hey, these are the questions our customers are asking. And so every step of the way, it was serving customers, but also serving that feedback loop internally, which is so important. And what did they do with that? They made some changes to our product. And so I could remove 2 or 3 questions that were no longer customer challenges, which is so cool. It's so rewarding. We had one-to-one, Kyle and I, in the first year, I mean, we did one-to-one trainings for every single customer that we had. We would have, and I got another head nod, I love it. You're like my best friend right now. And so we were literally going from, who knows, 8 in the morning till really 8 at night, running customer calls. At some point, your voice gets a little scratchy, you need to slow it down. And so we started to think smarter, because we knew that wasn't scaling and it was really impacting us. So we decided to pivot to group trainings. And so instead of running all of these calls all the time, we did Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays calls at 10 a.m. on the East Coast and at 4 p.m. for the West Coast. So it was really their afternoon. And customers could join at any time. Now, for our more strategic accounts, our larger accounts at the time, they still got that one-to-one experience. But for most, they just wanted training. I don't know if you've ever sold and serviced to sales professionals, but they're an interesting group, for lack of better words. And so they want things when they want them, and timing is very important. So when we set the expectations that we had these 3 trainings, really 6 trainings throughout the week, and they could hop on multiple, they loved that, they ate that up. And so from this experience, it's, what are your customers' expectations, and do you really know who's buying from you, right? For sales, they want what they want when they want it, and if you don't get it, they might go to Twitter, or they might go to LinkedIn. And so just being mindful and learning, and how are you applying that to the business quickly? And again, good is better than perfect in this case. And last but not least, we started a monthly newsletter. So we were onboarding so many different customers, and we were learning a lot. There were a lot of like golden nuggets that we were finding, and we realized that with just me, and we ended the year at 3, we weren't able to share that with all of our customers, but through a newsletter we could. And so with our newsletter, we were reaching folks. We had a customer corner down at the bottom, so customers were sharing their best practices. And that goes to what Kevin said about embracing their hearts and engaging their minds. We did that from the very early days, and we just phrase it better now, to be honest. But we were connecting with them and sharing best practices. And of course, everybody wants their face in some type of newsletter, right? And so our sales folks were just eating that up. And so that's the idea stage. And when we think about hiring, here we are in front of our 3rd floor Atlanta Tech Village office. You've got myself in the middle. I had some stellar bangs back in the day. But you've got Allie Merritt on the left side. She is our Chief Customer Officer, and you've got Kara there. And so when you're thinking about hiring for the idea stage, whether it's you're hiring a CS leader as that very first hire, hiring customer success managers to get the job done, they should have an experience in creating something. Because if you're walking into this for the very first time, it's going to be so difficult. So I had created multiple things, and Kyle actually made me articulate that over the phone. And then when I came to Atlanta, said, you talked about creating your debate team and other projects. Walk me through that again. Show me how you did that. Can you draw that out? And so he was testing me to ensure that I would be able to, one, be able to think on my feet, deal with these problems in real time, but also bring that vision and be able to share it with others. And so it was really interesting. And the more that I talk to CEOs and co-founders about bringing their first CS function on, I always say, do they have experience creating something? I don't care what it is. It could be a small business. It could be creating a blog. It could be code, for all I know. The mindset to that is they'll think through problems. They'll be able to explain them and be able to apply that at your business as well. Industry knowledge. I think I got lucky, because I was in sales previous to SalesLoft. So I understood the sales persona. I knew what I thought I knew what I was walking into in servicing them. But I was able to pick up quickly on what demand gen was. And then furthering that, how do we go from lead to conversion to deal one? And so we're able to have these conversations around go-to-market strategies. And we've gotten further and further as we progress with the company. But I knew that. And so when you're thinking about hiring for your customer base, you're going to hear, oh, we need a CSM. And I'm going to say, no, you don't need a CSM. You need someone who understands your customers. And so that role might not be a customer success manager today. It might be a project manager. If you're selling to engineers, you might need an engineer who can speak to those engineers. And so think about the background that you're having. So whatever that industry knowledge is, ideally hire for that. And then, of course, all of that just speaks your customer language. So very early on, I was able to get on the phones, understand these sales executives and sometimes marketing executives, and really just dig deep with them. And because of that, the relationships instantly were bonded. And multiple of them are still customers today. And they're tweeting me, they're sending me messages. I just got married in January. I had gifts from them. I've known them for, 4.5 years now, and it's just crazy. And so when you have someone who can come in early and speak your customer's language, I think all of our presentations today have talked about strengthening the bonds with your customers. This is just the start, and you can start very early with that. All right, product market fit. This is where we started making some serious moves at SalesLoft. So I took our team of 3 and really brought it to 12. And so in this function, we were doing support, training, and I was going to say customer success. I think we had 1 or 2 folks that were actually proactively managing our largest customers. So as you're starting, you're not going to have CSM straight away truly having a proactive account management function in that. You're going to be all over the place. So we had support, we had training, and those were the 2 biggest pillars because our customers wanted things fixed quickly, and they wanted to be trained so that they could use the product. So the team was there. We actually had internal process as we brought on all those folks, so that was fantastic. We were learning, we were iterating, we were realizing what works best for us. Huge fan of Google spreadsheets. I know a lot of folks will say, no, don't like them. I love them, still to this day, even when we have the technology. And then customer learnings. We were talking to so many customers. The team was very large at the time, and so we would take those learnings every Wednesday and we'd have a lunch. And I'm pretty sure they only came because I bought them food. But we would sit down and I'd say, okay, what are our customers' biggest highlights from the past week? What are their biggest challenges? And how can we tackle them? And so we would take all of those customer learnings at lunch. Again, I'd send an email internally to our leadership, so that way they were aware of what the voice of the customer was saying. We put them in our newsletter, and then you'll start to see an action on the right-hand side where we had webinars to address some of those items. And so you've got that there. And then some of the early highlights were online reviews. So I know some people cringe when they think of online reviews, but at SalesLoft, it was such an enjoyable experience when we got our first G2 crowd review. And everyone started freaking out, and of course I went and I knew exactly who it was, and I called and I said, that was so awesome, thank you. And he said, man, I just did that like 5 minutes ago. I said, man, you know I have Google alerts on everything related to SalesLoft, let's be real. And so set Google alerts for your business, that's a big one, and your names and all of that jazz. But we had some online reviews, and I've got a really cool next slide that I'll show you in a second. But from this, we were growing and scaling so quickly. We had some really big challenges when it came to what is the right amount of customers to one CSM. And so every business is a little different. I know Jason Lemkin talks about that magic number of 2 million. For us in the very early stages, that just didn't scale. Our deal size was just way too small, and our poor CSMs. I strived for that 2 million. It didn't work. It led to burnout. And so just be realistic about what you want that experience to be and think, can someone really manage X amount of customers? How would I do that as their leader? Put yourself in their shoes. Renewal process. So we had month-to-month contracts when we first started. We moved to quarterly, and then we had annual contracts, which is awesome. Locking that revenue in for a longer period of time. How do you engage with renewals? When you're a startup, launching another product at the same time, how do you deal with that? And so really when you think about creating different processes, I would actually take the team in and say, hey, here's the business challenge. Not the customer challenge, the business challenge. We have renewals. They're coming up. What do you think we should do? Because I could easily get in and say, hey, everyone, here's the one pager. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the renewal strategy. I'd bring them along with the journey. And so I'd say, here's the challenge. What does this look like? And they'd throw out ideas out there. And then I'd incorporate their ideas into my one pager. And then when I rolled that one pager out to them, they could see themselves in that. And they adopted it. And it was so smooth of a rollout. And it really, really works. So as you're creating new strategies, and you're not always going to be able to do that, but the more you can bring some of the early team members into it, and they can see themselves as a part of that change, you're really going to be able to move a lot faster. Early churn, because we didn't have a renewals process, we weren't handling it correctly. And then social posts. So as much as I loved those online reviews, people went out on Twitter when we weren't getting back to them within 20 to 30 minutes. And so then I'd say, the average first response time in SaaS is 24 business hours. And the fact that we're not getting back to you in 10, 20 minutes is pretty reasonable, right? But they had got used to the SalesLoft experience of me and Allie being on Zendesk all the time. And so how do you reset those expectations, right? And so I'm getting raised eyebrows. Yeah, it's pretty intense. And so actions. We created an internal training guide. And I love that Pete brought this up. He had his playbook. So before day one, he could send this out to his new sales executives or account executives. We did a similar thing. I actually didn't send it out before day one, but they got it on day one. So we had a playbook, an internal training guide. And again, the team helped create that. And they helped train as well. So it wasn't always my time on the line. The team would be able to come by my side and train the others. And so think of that as you're scaling. Does it always have to be you? Is that the best use of time? I'm sure there are golden moments in that where it has to be you, but you've hired people for a reason. Let them train others. We did this deep dive into churn. So I find it to be pretty sexy. It's one of those things where it's like you want to understand what's going on, why they're leaving. And so we did this churn analysis, and I brought the team together, and I said, here's what we need to do. What are your ideas on executing this vision? And so for our SMB customers, which were primarily the base that was churning, we did a survey. We did an initial survey. We got on the phones. We understood why they were leaving. We didn't leave it just at the survey and emails. We called. We made it a meaningful experience because we really cared about why they left. And so on that front, you'll see as we got to the scale side, it really paid off for us. We had people actually come back. You're calling me, and it's not just a survey. You're following up on exactly what I wrote in your survey. It was like it was a foreign experience, and they didn't expect that. And so we often talk about how product is a competitive feature for you. Your customer experience is a competitive feature. How you engage with those customers is a competitive feature. So are you sending a survey? What do you do with that? Are you sending an email? What do you do with that? If they're writing back to you and giving you feedback, do you write back and say thank you? If they're writing a survey and they give you some really fantastic insights that you just hadn't experienced, do you call them and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes to discuss this? If a customer is willing to give you time and insights, take it. Run with it for as long as you can. My company previous to SalesLoft would pay customers for their time and their insights. And here I was at this startup where they were willing to hop on my calendar. It's just mind-blowing, right? And then we started customer webinars. So took that newsletter where we had that customer corner, and we morphed that into a webinar because our customers really enjoyed that so much. And so we moved that to a monthly cadence, and it was a CSM or a support agent side by side with the customer on every single one. So there again, championing your customers again and again, sharing best practices, how to use your product in different ways. And again, you have the social posts that go on about that. Those are bonds that you have forever. And it was really exciting. So product market fit, hiring. Oh, just kidding. This is our G2 rating. And so this was the summer of 2015, and we were on, I think at this point, the 4th floor. We had the wing, and I was running up and down the hallways with my laptop just like this and saying, look at me, look at this, look what happened. SalesLoft was ranked highest SMB product. And so can we talk about the logos right here? Y'all looking at that? Who do you see? I see Slack. I see HubSpot, Adobe, what? And so we were so proud, and you know, at this point in time, this was just our customers going to G2 on their own. I didn't even know that you could drive them to G2 at that time. So this was all organic based off of the customer experience. So Kevin talked about being early, you have to create that brand and you have to stand out. Once you stand out, your customers will do brilliant things if you're servicing them in the right way, like go to G2, and help you stand out even more. So that was a really exciting one. When you hire, again, the team, it just grew, and not everyone's in this photo, but I did some really cheesy things a lot of the time, and I think they liked it, like taking them out and buying them sombreros and mustaches and whatnot. But around product market fit, the biggest thing was hiring Jacks and Janes of all trades. We were growing so incredibly fast that we needed help, we needed bodies, right? And so we would take folks who really believed that no job was too big or too small for them. They had such a strong mentality of customer service and customer experience, and maybe they didn't have all the experience in the world, but they had a passion for serving, and that was very important to SalesLoft. And so here I say communication times 3. And so what I mean by that is, can they communicate with your customers? And so as you're thinking about hiring them, what type of assessments or tests are you putting them through? I would give them actual one-pager with 3 or 4 questions that were actual support tickets that our customers had sent in, and I'd ask them to answer it. I wanted to see their approach, how they engaged with the customer, and how they detailed the response, whether it was technical or not. And a lot of people either did the assessment or they didn't do it, and that said a lot, right? But those who did the assessment and took their time, I could understand how they would approach our customers once they were on board. So that was a big one. The second one was, how do they communicate with their peers? So we did culture interviews, and that was a really big one. As this team grew so quickly, has anyone heard of forming, storming, norming, and performing? I've got a lot of head nods. We were straight up storming. And so the team needed to be aligned. And so the second one was, how are we engaging together as a group, as a customer success group? And the third one is, how do we relay that feedback back to the company? You're seeing a trend here at all? Feedback internally as a group, feedback to our customers, and feedback back to the company. And each of the stages, that was so critically important for me to ensure that our customers were heard, the team was heard, and that the company understood all of it. All right, here we go, scale. This is where we're at. And we're really just digging in. So at the beginning of 2017, we completely reorged the services component at SalesLoft. And what that means is support, implementation, we changed training to implementation, and customer success now reported to a VP of services. I wasn't that technical. Thought I was, but I wasn't, right? And so we moved the support team actually under someone who understood the technical capabilities of our product. Implementation was really focused on jump-starting our customers and integrating deeply with their Salesforce environments. That's just not my cup of tea. And so there's no shame in that. And so I think from a leadership perspective, knowing where you thrive, but also knowing where your weaknesses are, hire for that, and then be okay with letting someone else thrive in that area. It's going to make the company 10 times better. And so reorged, I went deep on customer success. We segmented the team, so we moved everything to SMB, commercial, and enterprise. So everyone had their lane where they were thriving, and we could really learn the best practices of that specific segment. Experienced hires, so we got some funding, and in that we could hire some folks who had actually worked in SaaS before, who had worked in customer success programs, and we were able to bring that to our team, and it helped us elevate and get even better. And then we had that churn reduction. By doing that churn analysis, I wish we had done it earlier. I wish we had done it earlier and more often. We saw some serious results in that, and more often than not, it actually led us to retaining more customers and expanding them, signing longer-term agreements. And so If I could go back and do maybe one thing over, maybe it would be that. Challenges, product innovation. So I think Kevin showed you a slide that said we released a feature every single week in 2017. That was amazing, but it was also very challenging for a customer-facing organization and for our customers. And so we really focused on feature adoption and what was the best way to go about releasing a feature every single week. How do you communicate that? What do you do? And then we expanded up market. And so we're no longer in that SMB space. We had commercial customers, and we were starting to dabble with enterprise. And what we learned very quickly was this is a whole new ballgame. It's exciting. The challenges are different, though, and the expectations for the customer experience have evolved. How do we level up and try to get ahead? Actions, we revamped our customer journey based on expanding upmarket. What worked for SMB didn't work for commercial or enterprise. We segmented the team, as I said, and then we implemented our health scores. And that was something that, again, we probably should have done that sooner as well. But customers' health scores for each of the segments, because, again, they're so different. What works for enterprise doesn't work for SMB. And that's the customer success team. The SalesLoft Services org is probably over 65 folks today, if I had to guess. This is the customer success team. Again, not everybody's picture, but this was at our Christmas party, our holiday party, and I asked them all to wear ugly sweaters. And of course, again, that corny thing comes through, but they eat it up. And so when you're thinking about scale hiring, I really started to look for folks with SaaS experience who had been through this before. And renewals experience. Again, that renewals challenge is very real, especially as you grow up market. So we focused on that. I really like professional polish. And so now that we could take our Jacks and Janes of all trades, I put that professional polish on them. Now I could hire for that, which was really awesome. And they came in from day one with it. And it really helped elevate the rest of the team. And then last but not least, I asked for customer references. So for those folks who were a little bit more experienced, do they have customers who could back up the relationships that they've built with them and the success that they've helped drive in their business? And so yes, you can go to LinkedIn and look at their referrals. That's a great place to start. But would someone be willing to speak on their behalf as a customer? And that's been a fun journey as well. So Sales Love is something I wrote on a village wall, I think February of 2015. And little did I know that it would become our rallying cry for customer love and the customer experience. And so leave that one, I'll credit it to ATV. But in that, when I hear from our customers, I often hear, well, we don't have the budget to do the things that you all do. And I say, BS. To this, we had customers who were awarded for the Battery Ventures Award. So we literally just created a video. We took as many people as we could, got them into a hallway, created a video, and then we shared that on Twitter. Maybe that took 10 minutes of time from everyone, and maybe a few more folks in marketing, maybe 20 minutes. That's worth it. It went out on the web, and we got so many folks responding back to us with video, which was super cool. Then on the second-hand side, the right-hand side here, you have sending letters, snail mail. It's making a comeback. If you don't know that, now you know. But we would literally send handwritten notes to our customers, and we would intentionally book time once a month for 30 minutes. I would get SalesLoft note cards. I put stamps on them and say, you have to come with a name, an address, and a note for your customer, and I'll take care of everything else. And so they'd come and drop it in the little buckets that you see there, and we would also do swag. But again, it's their time, and we would cover the costs. Then when you do get a little bit of a budget, some cool things that you can do, of course, you see the T-shirts there. T-shirts are great. I love them. Our customers do love them as well from a sales side. But you have to remember, do what works for your customer base. Not everybody's going to love a T-shirt, right? This right-hand side is super cool, and it's something we just started to do. It's a sticker. And so if you look at laptops, what's the new thing? Stickers. My laptop is still clear from that standpoint. But this is a sticker for Boston. So we're having customers rep us in their hood, if you will. And so we have Boston skyline, we have the Atlanta skyline, San Francisco, Chicago. And so they're able to rep us where they are, and we've created community groups around that. So they get exclusive swag based on their city. And again, these are little things that they're doing that they're eating up. And how much does a sticker cost? I don't even know. Where's Kevin? Stickers, how much? $1.36. There you go, $1.36, right? So I don't want to, yeah, there you go, buy 500. There is no excuse for not being intentional about your customer experience. You can do things that don't cost a lot of money, or you can do things that do cost a lot of money, like a food truck. Wait on that. Don't do it in your first year. Get some momentum under your belt. So I leave you today with this quote that is on my desk, and it says, revolve your world around the customer, and more customers will revolve around you. Thanks, guys.
Let's give it up.